This video is going to be a film study look at what the Seattle Seahawks defense was able to do in stopping or shutting down pretty much all facets of the 49ers offense. San Francisco did have 2 drives in the second quarter, 2 10-play drives, in fact, to generate field goals and get to within 17-6 after that game-opening flurry by the Seahawks, of course, kicked off, or led off, I should say, by Rashid Shaheed's 95-yard kickoff return on the opening snap. I did a film study video on that Sunday night. If you want to check that out, I'll link it up in the description as well as once the video flows through here. Seattle, so many guys doing their job across a wide array of coverages. That's the name of the game at this point for Mike McDonald and Aiden Durday's defense. Those guys execute a number of responsibilities. Quarterbacks don't know post-snap what's going to occur. There's many moving parts, and they rely on that ferocious pass rush regardless of who's in. Brock Purdy was only, I think, 15 of 27 passing for 140 yards, really low yards per attempt and yards per completion. The 1 interception simultaneous to that, or at the same time, Seattle shut down the run game. San Francisco does get to 108 total yards on the ground, but 39 of that came once the score was 41-6 in the fourth quarter. We'll get the video started here, and it's going to be on San Francisco's first possession. Of course, this is after Shaheed has taken the opening kickoff back to the house from 95 yards to put Seattle up 7-0. So this is the goal line look, kind of standard for Seattle, whereby you have 4 defensive linemen, 2 in the A gaps, 2 in the B gaps, 2 stand-up defensive ends or edge defenders. The only difference is one of them is a hybrid safety nickel DB, Nick Emanwari, and then 2 inside linebackers in the form of Ernest Jones IV and Drake Thomas, who's set up to our right, number 42. Keep an eye on DeMarcus Lawrence here, just in terms of his alignment. I want you to keep that in mind, I guess I should say, for the next play. Christian McCaffrey's path is really, I think, supposed to veer off here to the left-hand side of the offensive line. But as typical with these goal line looks for Seattle, you're going to see a swim technique by Leonard Williams and also by Byron Murphy that's just going to disrupt and possibly get in the vision of Christian McCaffrey. He decides to bring this back to the backside of it. You've got the right guard pulling and kicking along with a guy in motion. To me, it's pretty obvious this is supposed to go, in this path here. Christian McCaffrey takes it to the backside, and the problem with that is that Juszczyk, the fullback, is really just cut blocking on the backside. So 44 lined up as a tight end here, obviously. He thinks the run play is supposed to go away from him, right? That's what the pulling guard kind of tells us. And so as a result of that, I'm not saying he's not trying, but he just is trying to hold off Nwosu from the backside, not let him close down and chase CMC, who should be going off on that path. But Christian McCaffrey cuts it back directly into Nwosu. The swim from Byron Murphy worked, and as well as the swim from Leonard Williams, obviously. He basically takes out the tight end who's trying to step down to him with his swim move. Murphy is able to swim over the top of the tackle, or swim over top of the guard, and then fit between him and the tackle. And Nwosu, Murphy finish it off. That's pretty much what you get out of Seattle's goal line look so far this year in 2025. Those guys play, things are simplified, I guess, from a gap standpoint. And when they have 2 inside linebackers in there from a 1 high safety structure and goal line, it becomes very difficult to run the football against them. The very next snap, again, we're on San Francisco's first possession. It's a 4th and 1. So this time they go 22 personnel. So 1 tight end up here, another tight end here, and then Juszczyk, the fullback 44, is going to motion back into the backfield. You get 2 sets of motions or shift, whatever you want to call it here. And it ends up being what I would call a wing eye, but this is offset. So the fullback is offset, and that's all to sync up the timing of this handoff from Brock Purdy. One thing to note here, compare this to the alignment for DeMarcus Lawrence on the previous iteration of the goal line look. So let's focus on Lawrence for a moment. He's right here, same spot he was on the previous snap that I showed you. And then before the tight end even gets over there, I should say the second tight end even gets over there, DeMarcus Lawrence has already widened himself up. And you'll get a really good view of it from the end zone angle when I show that one, just to let you know. So it's basically what I was taught to call sweep option. And so the fullback is going to get the ball from Brock Purdy. And again, that's why he's offset. If the fullback was starting here on the midline, the midline being, the right hash, then he would be too far out in front of Brock Purdy. So this is all designed to sync up or time up with Brock Purdy's steps. And first of all, DeMarcus Lawrence wins against the tight end, against the right tackle, number one. And number two, Drake Thomas, who's walked up as a pseudo edge defender here, also is able to get to the outside. So both of these guys, DeMarcus Lawrence and Drake Thomas, have been able to keep their outside arm free, if you will, and try to track down the fullback and the tailback, which is McCaffrey, into the boundary. Too late to pitch it, clearly. We'll give you the end zone angle. I think you'll get a better idea of what I'm talking about from DeMarcus Lawrence, widening himself up from an alignment standpoint. So getting their hands in the ground, there's your 4 defensive linemen in Seattle's goal line look, just like I showed you from the previous snap. But we know we're going to get 2 sets of motion or shifts. You can see Lawrence has already widened himself up to being head up over this tight end. On the previous snap, the 3rd and 1, he was lined up in this gap, and it made it easier for the offensive tackle, the right tackle, to take him down. In this case, by widening up, he's given himself an opportunity to not get reached, basically. So by alignment, his helmet has got better leverage or closer to the sideline than that right tackle is by far. So you should not get reached from this alignment. Number one. Number two, you got Drake Thomas. Both of these guys, Thomas and Lawrence, both of them went into the outside. Functionally, Lawrence could play the fullback, and then Thomas could play the pitchman, McCaffrey. Safety would normally fit, inside out in the alley and adjust, depending on if it's keep or a pitch. It's a keep really late. Jerron Reed is also there as well. That's one of the things with Seattle's defense, right? Is this incredible pursuit. Too many guys at the point of attack for you to be able to block effectively. In this case, Lawrence and Thomas, the 2 most direct wins, as well as Jerron Reed gets there, makes contact with the fullback. It's a beautiful stop early in the game. Like I said, after the initial kickoff return, puts Seattle up 7-0. We're on to the second possession here. It's swelled to 10-0 Seattle after a field goal. I did not like Clint Kubiak's, I think, 3rd and 2 or maybe 3rd and 3 run call. But in any case, it's a 2nd and 7. And this is a really nice route combination, I think. So it's a dime look from Seattle in 2nd and 7. They're almost kind of daring you to run the football. But you can do that when you're exceptional at stopping the run, right, out of your nickel platform. So 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8, even maybe 2nd and 6 will be something to look at moving forward against the Rams or in a Super Bowl matchup, whoever they would face, if they're fortunate enough to make it there. How often and how quickly do McDonald and Durde go to these dime looks in 2nd and long? So in any case, you're going to see this concept a couple of times where McCaffrey is going to cross the quarterback's face, go into the boundary, and then you've got routes kind of working in over the top. In this case, it's the outside receiver, I think Jennings, up to the top side of our screen. The route that I really like here is by the tight end. He ends up working on, I believe it's Witherspoon. He'll basically put his foot into the ground, plant, and then come back to the middle of the field. This is, of course, going to be the forced fumble by Ernest Jones. Everybody matches up here. What's interesting, if you ask me, is that everyone matches up. Manwari with McCaffrey, outside corner with the outside receiver, outside corner with the outside receiver. Witherspoon matches up with the tight end, and then they just basically let the fullback run free over the middle, probably because A, he's not a threat, and B, when McCaffrey goes in motion, it kind of breaks the coverage a little bit in dime, basically meaning that Manwari's got to match up with McCaffrey. Hopefully, I said that in a way that makes sense, but in any case, Purdy comes back to that route. The tight end, I think, did a pretty nice job putting his foot in the ground and then turning back to the inside. That's a route that showed up 6 times by the Niners. I'm talking about this tight end here, veering off to the outside and then returning back to the inside. We'll call it a whip, China in, return route, whatever you want to call it. So it'll be interesting to see if the Rams kind of go to that, if they're seeing the same things the 49ers did as a reason or a rationale for keeping that in the game plan. So here's Jones, going to be a fantastic strip with his left hand on the tight end. Julian Love recovers. Just great grip strength, number one. Number two, Witherspoon's kind of holding on to the tight end as much as he can. I don't know about you, but when this happened live, it happened so quickly. Because there was 4 guys there, I'm talking about Witherspoon, Jones, and then the fullback arrives, just as the ball was stripped. I was a little worried. I was like, was his knee down or something like that? But, on replay, it was obviously not even close. The pursuit of these guys on this defense has been spectacular in 2025. It's one of the reasons why things happen like this for them. When the ball's on the ground, so many guys are getting to the football. It's only 10-0 here. You're 10 minutes into the game, and you've already got a turnover. Ernest Jones the fourth, same play from the end zone angle. Again, it's a 2nd and 7, and they motion McCaffrey across. That's going to pull a man warrior. You can see Drake Thomas is not on the field, so they're in their dime look. Dime, too high structure, in fact, so as many athletes on the field as possible who can recover and who can also tackle, Manwari and Witherspoon, and then arrive with some hostility. This is I don't know how many turnovers Jones has been involved in this year. I don't think he's forced a fumble in the regular season, but I could be wrong. But this is just a guy who's playing at an incredibly high level. Great acquisition last year at midseason for Seattle, and then the decision to re-sign him or extend him, I guess, working out greatly for John Schneider and the whole Seattle Seahawks defensive staff. To be able to grab the football and get it out of there from a pretty strong guy. I mean, again, there's a little bit of karma here. That's the guy who I believe had the game-winning touchdown catch in Week 1 in Seattle in the end zone against Reek Woolen. So kind of crazy there. But in any case, they did go down and make it 17-0, pretty quickly thereafter. We're into the second quarter now. You can see that the field has switched. So third possession for San Francisco, ball on the right hash. It's a 3rd and 10. 11 personnel dime look. 11 personnel for the offense, dime look for the Seahawks. And it's one thing that you see a ton of. In dime, they're almost always going to be in a 2-high safety structure. They can rely on a man worry to match up with, whatever they want to. They definitely focused on taking away the intermediate and deep stuff here and just letting the 4-man rush kind of attack and be effective. So the line to gain is the 19. And you can see that those two kind of return routes, this one down at the bottom by Bourne, and this one up at the top by Pearsall, again, it's something that's shown up a lot in this game on film, at least that I saw. And Purdy's got a lot of time. Why is that? It's because Leonard Williams is receiving a pick by Byron Murphy. But for whatever reason, Leonard Williams' read here is that he's not sure where Purdy's going to go. So out of a 4-man rush scheme, he's kind of waiting. I think Leonard Williams is incredibly aware. And in my opinion, part of the reason why you're seeing this here, I don't think this is necessarily called by McDonald and Durday. I think he got punched right here in the chin and maybe was in a little bit later trying to get to his spot. So he's not sure if Purdy's going to escape out to either side. So I think Williams is just trying not to commit. Basically, he doesn't want to open up a pass rush lane, or an escape lane for Brock Purdy. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. But in any case, you can see the depth that Witherspoon has got. In addition, check out Love here. I think Love is reading the tight end's chip. And so he knows on the chip, a Manwari is going to take that guy over. And so he's looking to help immediately on this underneath route that actually ends up going towards the sideline. But my point is they're aggressive within their dime look, within their 2-high safety structure on 3rd and 10 and dime. They're just very prepared, and they've always got great leverage. Leverage meaning here's a receiver with a guy in outside leverage. There's a receiver with an outside guy to either side leverage. There's a receiver with an outside leverage guy. It doesn't really matter, kind of, to be honest with you, whether it's zone or match principles. They just do a great job of latching onto people. Once the quarterback kind of moves around a little bit, you can see Leonard Williams finally did, commit to one side, try to go get Brock Purdy. It's a great tackle by Witherspoon, and I believe Woolen up to the top side. And they end up holding the 49ers to a field goal. It only cuts it to 17-3. We're going to skip forward a little bit here. This is actually going to be the first possession of the third quarter for San Francisco. Of course, the lead has moved to 24-6 at this point. This is going to be Reed and Mafe making a play against the run. It's a 3rd and 3, as you can see. Opening possession, like I said, for San Francisco. Trying to get something going with the downhill run game. They're going to pull the guard, and the center is going to back block on Reed, so he's got to try to control him in that manner. He's unable to do so, number one. Number two, you are in a nickel look, just so you know, on 3rd and 3. Nick Manwari is off screen to our left. I'm not necessarily going to show the all-22 angle of it, but you got Byron Murphy going to a knee because he's sensing a double team from the tackle and the guard. He pretty much knew it was coming. The center stepping back to Jerron Reed, who's going to be able to win that to the top side. So when I say the top side, it means he's going to evade to the side where the offense is. He's not going underneath of this. And because of that and the disruption by Boye Mafe, they're able to get in the run lane and basically hold Robinson to pretty much no gain at all on a 3rd and 3. So it sets up the 49ers for a huge decision, right? It's 24-6, need touchdowns anyway. I think at this point it's going to be like a 61 or a 62-yarder. It would only make it 24-9, so they choose to go for it. And this is an amazing play by Leonard Williams, man. This is really the knockout, in my opinion. He's going to gain a lot of ground here with his first step. So as this develops, you think about the hand and foot relationship in terms of his alignment. Normally, you're trying to replace that hand, sometimes get a little bit in front of it. And I think this all works out here. It's a stunt, essentially. He's going upfield, and he's going to rip. He's going to show hands briefly and rip off of or underneath the right guard. Jones is just there to occupy the center. So Seattle's trying to create a 2-on-2 right here for these guys by utilizing Ernest Jones, the fourth, to just occupy the center. Williams going to show early hands and then end up ripping underneath while making some contact with the right tackle. You can see the right tackle doesn't have any awareness that the stunt is coming, so he's working upfield, and then presumably Hall would go underneath. The center has actually adjusted after the snap, meaning he recognized Ernest Jones IV didn't blitz, so he's worked in that direction. So what was a 2-on-2 has now become a 3-on-2, but Williams is pretty much already through the B gap against Dominic Pooney. Gets a sack on a 4th down. I don't think the 49ers had great options there, whether to kick the field goal or to go for it. But great time for Leonard Williams to get. I think that was the first sack of the game at that point, but for Seattle, but I could be wrong. I don't know about you. I was so glad to see him get second-team All-Pro. I was angry and upset last year after 2024. I thought he should have been recognized then. Of course, he was a late Pro Bowl addition after the 2024 season. I felt like that was too little, too late, and I did a video as such maybe 2 weeks after the season. I'll try to link that one up here for you guys to check out if you wish, so you can kind of confirm and just listen to my thoughts, how highly I think of Leonard Williams. That was a huge stop there, obviously, up 24-6, getting the defense off the field on the first possession of the third quarter. Seattle settled for a field goal to make it 27-6, so we're on to the 7th possession for the 49ers. This is kind of tough to see from the all-22 angle. This will be Ernest Jones' interception in the middle of the field, but you will get the end zone just to confirm, the way that he plays this and the super high-level awareness. You got the same concept that we saw multiple times in this game, where the running back, in this case Christian McCaffrey, is crossing the quarterback's face, and then you've got deeper in-breaking routes working in the opposite direction, if you will. So similar concept shows up a ton. But in any case, Nick Amanwari was the guy who took over Christian McCaffrey earlier. In this case, it's Drake Thomas taking him over, just ensuring that Brock Purdy doesn't have an easy access route out into the flats. Bourne is working all the way across the field. I think this route against Amanwari is just designed to hold him, and Brock Purdy's waiting for this route to develop all the way across the field. It's a 4-man rush, not necessarily successful yet. And because Drake Thomas matched up with Christian McCaffrey, remember the play that I showed you earlier where Nick Amanwari, it was a mirrored version. The offensive defenses were flipped. Nick Amanwari matched up with that route by Christian McCaffrey. Remember, the fullback 44 worked over the middle, and I said he was wide open. Pretty much the same thing happens here. So you can see the matching of Thomas on CMC. Tight end ends up being wide open, and as Purdy is waiting for Bourne to get open all the way across the field, doesn't happen. And then Derek Hall, hustling all the way around, is going to finally front up Brock Purdy enough such that he's got to get rid of the football. So it ends up being a pressure, but it took a long time for that pressure to finally arrive. And the throw is just off track, or off target, I should say, a little bit to the left of the tight end. And we'll be zoomed in from the end zone angle so you can see it, a little bit more clearly. Same concept, a ton out of the gun. I'm just wondering if it's something that Shanahan sees. Maybe the Rams will try to go to some and develop someone open briefly if the quarterback's willing to throw the football. I'm talking about this tight end and the fullback 44. on, I believe, the second play that I showed you in this video. So Ernest Jones IV is checking, or basically staring at Brock Purdy, who's staring at him. I think Purdy is waiting for this route right here by Bourne to get all the way across the field, and Ernest Jones IV is checking to his outside to see what he's got, probably because McCaffrey went this way, but that's not where the over route or the deep dig is coming from. It's a really nice job by Jones of locking up on this tight end and then making himself show up to one side. The pressure helps as well from Derek Hall, obviously. Brock Purdy doesn't put this, I don't think, in a good location at all. It's a great play by Jones, who had 5 interceptions in the regular season, now one in the playoffs. Only had 1 interception last year while playing, I think, 10 games in Seattle. He's got 126 or 128 tackles or something like that this year. 7 passes defensed, 5 interceptions. Another guy, in my opinion, well-deserved to be named second-team All-Pro. Two more plays here, both from the third quarter. This is a 3rd and 3 on the very next possession for San Francisco, and it's going to be a pass defense for Woolen that actually I think might just be him hitting the face mask of the receiver, Jennings. But it's a really brutal pick concept. So the outside receiver, or what is the outside receiver right now, I think is Ricky Pearsall. He's going to pick or screen Woolen, who's lined up inside. They're basically showing that it's going to be man. Brock Purdy sees that, recognizes that it's man, because you've got Job, Woolen, and Witherspoon all on the same side of the field. So I would love to see Seattle kind of show this obvious man look some, and then drop out into a zone, especially next week against the Rams. But here's the pick path that Pearsall takes, and it's very effective against Woolen, taking him out of there, springing Jennings free on what is essentially a slot fade, if you ask me. There's a ton of separation. I kind of hate even that word because so many people use it nowadays to be critical of guys in coverage. There's really nothing that Woolen can do here. The only thing that can be done is, don't play such obvious man, number one. But in any case, I originally thought, watching this live, that he got a PD here, that he's got his hand on the football. It kind of looks like he makes some contact with the upper body, maybe the face mask, or maybe the ball's already coming out, and and it goes down as a drop. In any case, beat because of the pick. Definitely a timely punch or attempt, I should say, at recovery. Nice design by San Francisco when they know that it's man, because Seattle, is pretty much giving it away by having their 3 corners on the same side. Here is Jennings. He's the inside receiver. The pick path kind of illustrated by that orange line. That's where Pearsall is going to seal Woolen from an outside-in perspective. And I think Purdy knows exactly where he's going with this football. I did think that, either the coverage or the rush or whatever did a little bit to Purdy's footwork sometimes. There was times where he's kind of shifting a little more than maybe you would want. But here he knows where he's going with football. And that's why I think you see him shifting so much. You can see the amount of space that there is between Woolen, and then that is Jawan Jennings' left shoulder. Great opportunity for him to, get a big play down the field. Game's over already at this point. I don't know where he hit. I mean, maybe you guys have seen a better angle, but from here, it looks like the helmet. And I thought Woolen played well earlier in the game. This one in particular, not necessarily his fault. It's very difficult to defend that pick concept. It set up another failed 4th down, which will be the last play that I'll show you here again. This is on the 8th possession, and the Seahawks bring pressure. It's going to be Emanwari first, and then Nwosu, I think, from the top side, as well as Leonard Williams underneath. So Love is going to get picked up by the right tackle, gets handled pretty quickly, if you ask me. Emanwari on a little bit more direct blitz path. Christian McCaffrey will cut him down. Williams working all the way around from left to right, and then they're going to drop out DeMarcus Lawrence to the right hash. It's a 5-man rush scheme with Nwosu off the edge. I think it has to be noted, how athletic this move is for Emanwari to be able to get cut, chopped down by McCaffrey, immediately get your hands on the ground, and then roll and get right back up and be the first guy to pressure the quarterback. I mean, insane athleticism, balance, awareness to be able to pop back up. Again, you can see Purdy's kind of drifting a little bit. The concept is over on that side. I'm not going to show you the all-22 angle He gets first pressure, Williams second. I kind of wish that Nwosu had taken a little bit better angle here dealing with the tight end, but I don't know about you, but when I first saw this live, I thought, I was like, he's obviously out of bounds. But no, his left foot is in bounds. So credit Purdy for at least giving an opportunity for, I think it's Bourne here, to try to catch the football. Kobe Bryant, in his first game back, jumps up, gets the PD. I believe you've also got Witherspoon, who's just, there's nowhere on the football field that something can happen on that side of the ball that Witherspoon isn't going to show up. He's just got that kind of mentality. The whole dynamic of no one being named first-team All-Pro, it kind of bothers me a little bit, but it also, I think, is a credit to what they've done in Seattle on defense throughout the whole year. Those situations where people were injured, Witherspoon missed some time, and they just plugged in, Kendrick, who ended up signing back with the Rams a little later on. Amanwari was out for a while. Drake Thomas played well. Tyrese Knight had the 2 forced fumbles in one game, both of which returned or taken back to the house by DeMarcus Lawrence. So I think it can be looked at as a positive that the best defense in the league, or one of the 2 or 3 best, if people want to argue, it really doesn't matter to me. It's all fun to watch for myself as someone who analyzes the game, that they didn't get anyone on first-team All-Pro. Do they have people that are deserving? Yes. Ernest Jones IV would be one of those guys if you ask me. I think Leonard Williams, the last 2 years, could have been a first-team All-Pro defensive tackle / defensive end hybrid, but I recognize that the numbers this year, aren't the same as what some other guys put up. Everybody does their job here across multiple responsibilities, and that, to me, is the biggest point that we can take away as a real positive, that no one was named first-team All-Pro, 3 guys on second-team All-Pro defense, is that Mike Macdonald asks a ton from a versatility standpoint, but there's no drop in efficiency for anyone. And, I'm trying to spin it towards the positive a little bit, even though it pisses me off some. This was a complete destruction. The Seahawks stopped the run game, limited Christian McCaffrey, I think, to 79 yards on 16 touches, something like that. And then they gave Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan so many coverage looks that they were never comfortable. At least Purdy was never comfortable, right? He looked like he was moving around towards his read sometimes, towards the side where he was intending to throw the football. And that can just be too much information. I'm not talking about necessarily the slot fade to Jennings, that he put it directly in Jennings' hands, either a drop or a face mask or a PD by Tariq Woolen. What I'm saying is, in some of these zone situations, if Purdy or Matt Stafford or anyone is drifting to one side, they're almost kind of giving away where the ball is going to go and allowing those guys, those defenders, second and third level defenders, to drift and identify routes. Ernest Jones IV had the forced fumble and the interception. DeMarcus Lawrence played a whale of a game. The stop on the 4th and 1 on San Francisco's first possession, the strip sack of Purdy in the fourth quarter. The game was over at that point. I didn't show that one. There's just so many guys here that arrive at the football. They take a great angle. They get to the football on time, and they got tremendous hostility when they do get there. McDonald and Durday have done a great job against the 49ers recently, especially, right? I know they gave up 277 passing yards to Purdy in week 1, and now there's a bigger test on the horizon this week. It's Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Sean McVay again. 2 rematches in a row, just kind of crazy the way that the NFL worked this out with facing so many division opponents late in the season, and now Seattle gets 2 of them at home in the NFC, this one in the NFC Championship game. I think the Rams were really fortunate to survive in Chicago. Of course, the 4th down touchdown from Caleb Williams was, I think it's historic, and they're down 17-10 at that point. So you could say that Chicago was fortunate, to get to overtime. That last interception by Caleb Williams, that has a lot to do with DJ Moore just being a guy who historically, he puts non-competitive, lazy routes out there often. And I'm talking about 4, 5, 6, 7 times a game. That's just his MO. Look, he's a Maryland guy. I'm from Maryland. I root for him. But it's obvious when you watch the film, those type of things show up, and it showed up at the wrong time. Nothing like that will occur next week for Seattle against the Rams, nor the Rams for that matter. It's a great rematch. I will definitely put out another film study on this game against the Niners, and it's going to focus on Kenneth Walker III, obviously. 3 touchdowns, I think 119 rushing yards. With the news that Zach Charbonnet is going to be out, it puts all of the spotlight on Kenneth Walker III. I think he's up to the task. I know that there's a variety of opinions out there about him. He's been playing spectacular football the last 4 games. Look, he has 364 yards on the ground in the last 4 games. I think the outside zone scheme, outside zone stretch, whatever you want to call it, really suits him well. This is a fantastic matchup. I think it's the game of the weekend, although the Broncos and the Patriots, they deserve, their attention and evaluation as well. A fun video for me to put up. I know I kind of spun it or began to talk about the offense at the end. I think it's a big topic right now for Seahawks fans or anyone that Zach Charbonnet is going to be out, and the 2 running back structure is going to be tested a little bit. Maybe Cam Akers will be on the field some, getting some carries. You'd have to think that Kenneth Walker isn't going to suddenly carry the ball 30, 32 times. Clint Kubiak's got his hands full. I think he's got enough talent to get the job done, in my opinion. If I do get enough time, I'll try to put that video out late Monday night, but possibly into Tuesday afternoon like this one. If you guys enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments section, number 1. Number 2, if you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy this film study look at how their defense was able to totally deconstruct Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey once again, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.